George Bruno with the 21 Report. We're at the 21 Convention, the final event of the decade, and I'm talking with Socrates. Welcome.
Thank you.
Wow, what a presentation. I feel like you blazed some new ground.
It's not common ground. It's stuff that we've been kind of pointing the ship towards. It's clear that I'm launching it fully and heartedly. There's no going back. We're sailing new seas in a confident, more direct manner, and there's no misguiding it. It's very direct. It's very forceful, unabashedly and unashamedly.
Yeah, I never thought in a million years that I would hear somebody from a 21 Convention stage talk about how to change a diaper.
You and me both. And this is not only, I did it at Patriarch, but I followed suit again. This one, not so much emphasizing the diaper story, which was more elaborate in my Patriarch convention, but this was focused in on the tools of the trade.
Yes.
In essence, the tactical baby gear, that you would utilize. And that's actually a company brand name. And I showcased some of their work. I actually showcased my own bag, which predates this, and some of the things that I did to bring my abilities up to par with what I thought were task at hand and share some of that.
Right.
And I think a lot of the guys, that kind of tactical approach to techniques was not there. But also a strategic idea of the mindset of what are you doing, how do you get your head in the game, and then bringing it at a tactical level of how do you achieve this. So yeah, it was kind of all encompassing. It was a lot of fun to do. I'll be very interested in watching the presentation myself. So it's because you get stuck in a moment of flow and you don't know how you do. I can remember being there. I can remember seeing the audience, but remembering exactly what I said, how I said it, what words really came out of my mouth. It'll be interesting to see as compared to me rehearsing and preparing and doing all that sort of stuff. So I'll be interested to see it.
I used to write a column for a newspaper, and I wrote about fishing once, and I said, when you take your kids fishing, it's really not about fishing.
No.
And it reminded me of what you said. When you change a child's diaper, it's not about the diaper, it's not about poop, it's not about...
No.
It's about your relationship with that child and a bonding experience. And
correct.
Explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody focuses in on the diaper changing, and it's supposed to be a non-masculine thing. And my mindset was change that, that this is you protecting and providing for your child in a very intimate way.
Yeah.
And you lose that opportunity when you don't. And so we don't respect men who shirk their responsibility in these regards. And so if we sit down and change our mindsets to this and look at this as an opportunity to provide for a child and to, instead of being a disposable sex, because we know that mothers are essential, but to view yourself not as the disposable element of parenting, but as a force multiplier. That changes the dynamic dramatically. And we know that that's effective because, it doesn't take a genius to sit and watch a single mother struggle. Okay, and I don't mean it in a lack of empathy. I mean with very, very sincere empathy.
Yes.
That if she had a man and a dedicated father in her life, how much easier and more apt that they would be, and how much better that child's life would be. So I take the approach that this is an opportunity for me to do just that in service of my child, in service of my own legacy. And I was taught when I was going in the military about combat life-saving is you don't treat the wound, you treat the patient first. And part of that is addressing eye contact, is that you have a child who's in duress, they can't speak, they can't communicate, and they're doing what they can, they're upset. How do you engage that? And the first thing is eye contact, touch. You don't hold them off to a stray, they're not toxic. And if you have to, I don't care what you're wearing. I gave the example of a $3,000 suit. You pick that child up and you hold them, you comfort them, you cradle them. They desperately need that. If you ruin the suit, you ruin the suit. You can replace it. You will not be able to replace that bond if it's missed. You miss that permanently. And then once you kind of do that, you've got the problem of saying, how do I now engage a child who's duress? How do I change that? And part of that is being very, very prepared. And I've got an example here, and this one's already illuminated. I pull this out this quick, you break it, you shake it up, and you show it, and you have this chem light. It's kind of fascinating. You just sort of wave it around a little bit and you give it to the child. I have never seen this failed. A child that's now being held, comforted, it's being addressed, and it has something fancy to redirect its attention to. And what you've essentially done is you've changed the child's mind by changing its mood. Now I can start to address the actual task at hand, which is changing the diaper. And of course, I also talked about the systematization of how to do that. It's not this you do this, but there's little kind of techniques that you can do, and if you systematize it, which is nothing more than a form of project management, and men are really, really adept at doing this, that you then do this with childcare and changing the diaper. And I shared some of those techniques on how to do it. Part of it was having a well laid out dad bag that's already prepared for you. The other is the steps and processes you do it. So for example, in my bag right now, the diapers are laid out in such a way that I can reach in. I know exactly where they're at. I know exactly how many there are. I can pull it out, and without even looking at it, I know it's orientated the way I want, the front and the back and everything else, where the leg holes are. And I know that I can actually slip my hand through the leg hole, reach through, grab the baby's leg, and now we have a connection that I can then transfer that diaper directly into that baby's leg.
Interesting.
You know, and then you just kind of, you're still maintaining contact. Slip your hand back through the other side and do the same thing with the other leg. You're halfway there on a very challenging situation. And if you've ever tried to fight a baby that's kicking and upset and trying to get the thing, it will drive you nuts. One of the challenges we face, and I did not bring this up during the presentation, I've talked about child abuse before, and usually it's when parents are stressed or in duress, they're trying to get something done, and mothers tend to be the largest abusers of their own children. It's at times like this when you're fighting a child to change a diaper that the child gets struck. If you have a system in place and are prepared for it, you've eliminated that. And by doing so, you've vastly strengthened your family tree.
Equipping parents for the simplest of behaviors.
Yes, and these are not new, but I think we have the knowledge and awareness to convey these sort of things in a way in which we've never had before.
Yeah.
You know, our forefathers never had the ability to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
They may have kind of had some of the stuff laying
Yeah.
about. I think there's something to be said about going over to a place, you know, wherever I store my bag, and it's just like a get out of Dodge bag. You grab it, you go, you're good, you're set. You know it. It's prepackaged. You don't have to reassemble it, and part of that is being organized. It's not scattered. The funny thing is that mom tends to be very envious of it. Moms end up wanting it. Moms want to use it, and so you really have to safeguard and kind of make guard the bag and say, no. This is Daddy's bag. If Mommy wants hers, I'll set you up for yours, but you manage yours. You do not, you know, because you need to make sure that it's yours, it's prepared, and it's exactly the way you want. You don't want to be fishing around everything else.
Yeah, sure.
And part of it is you don't want to overload it either. And so one of the things I always show the guys is that there's a way in which you can take downgrade. It does not have to be this big. Some of them are actually larger. I prefer the ones on Quick Trips that are terribly small, and I think I hope I did. I hope I brought it. My favorite. It's an emergency blowout kit, and it's exactly what you think it is.
Wow.
This is a complete kit for a baby that needs to have a diaper change. And inside here, you have a changing pad, you have 5 wipes, you have a diaper, and then you have a disposable bag that you can put all the trash, seal it up, and it's good to go. Wow. I know that I don't have to carry this bag if I'm on a quick trip. And I kind of give Tanner a bad time that this is the reason why men need cargo pants, you know, because I know he hates them. You can just slip it in the cargo pot and you are go. You are go. The other is I can toss this to you, right? I can sit down and say, okay, here, take care of the kid. Here you go.
Right.
The biggest thing for me though is that by having this, I know it's available, it's tangible, and it lasts, it's durable. It gives me the confidence to be the part. So when you dress the part, you can play the part. When you have the tools available, you can do the part.
It's kind of masculine looking too. It doesn't.
It's completely.
It doesn't have flowers and cartoons on it either.
This is Tactical Baby Gear. I'm not sponsored by them. I really should be. Love to. Love to really kind of push their stuff as well. But it's designed after a military frame of mind.
Right.
And I know the Dutch documentary film crew was really kind of like, you have military stuff, and I actually have military grade first aid kit here, you know, within my bag, and they were really kind of, you have this serious. And I said, the issue is if you want military results, why don't you replicate exactly what they're doing?
Right.
And if I'm concerned about the world in which we live in which you have mass killings, you have shootings, you have terrorism, school shootings, whatever it is, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it is, I don't want to be impotent.
Right.
Okay, and if I have this stuff available,
right,
I know I can at least do something. I'm not impotent to the situation.
Yeah.
That gives me a hell of a lot more confidence walking around and doing things. Now, I didn't have to tell them, because it's probably would be a shocking American thing, is that the Tactical Baby Gear, all their day bags, all their dad bags actually come with inserts where we can actually insert, if you want, body armor, a ballistic plate in it.
Yeah.
So it actually becomes a ballistic shield for your child.
Interesting.
You're no longer just using your body
Yeah.
as a ballistic element.
Yeah.
You actually have something else. And if you need that, or if you're secure about that, or those are concerns, they have that available. I don't necessarily say, hey, this is truly the world we live in, but we know it's a reality in our world.
Right.
And so if you prepare for the worst, you know you're going to be okay when you have other issues. And
Yeah.
if you know that, hey, I have this, I also know that in most cases are going to have, a sink in which I can wash the child off. I'll have paper towels. I can work through these sort of things, know what they are. You've got that available, And so one of the things I think I shared too with the documentary film crew is that most dad bags will sit down and recommend that you have a change of the baby clothes.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
Yeah.
I actually don't recommend a change of clothes. I actually recommend swimwear. And the reason is that swimwear, a baby can re-soil it. I can take the baby back into a changing room, wash, rinse all the fecal matter, whatever it is, do it, wring that out, dry it off with paper towel, redress the child, and we're back out. And I have not packed another load of clothes in there.
Right.
It's thinner, more wearable, breather, and it tends to be lighter and more durable. So, and I'm also Florida, so I don't recommend this in Wisconsin for the winter.
Yeah, right.
But it's going to be climate and context related. But that's one of the things that I do. Another one is it's not just necessarily baby changing. I've got I talked about the first aid kit, but I also have a restaurant kit. That I have a small element of stuff. In many cases it's either the full thing or a compartmentalized Ziploc box of a coloring book, some markers, some stickers, and everything else that I can pull out, and it becomes something that we give to the child at the restaurant to give them engaged, to keep them that they don't get at the house. That they know that this is a special treat, special occasion. Here it is. We have other stuff at home, but I have this already in my bag, and it's a hell of a lot easier. And here, here's something else: is that you also get it. We talk about being an ambassador. You have an opportunity when you have a dad bag, when you see a struggling family, to sit over and just sort of hand somebody something like this. It's like, my gift to you. Just sit down and say, from father to father, and particularly the restaurant one, So I keep a couple of those in there as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how that sort of takes place. My bag, as well as it served me, I wish I had access to their stuff. There's so many cool things that they've been able to do and stylize to however you want to do it. And the thing that I'm also really fascinated about is when you have multiple children, how do you deal with that? And that the more you can systematize, compartmentalize stuff, whether it's food for each children and have it, you've got all that access. So
this all represents a shift in the 21 convention. Explain that shift.
We're not singularly focused on one subject. There's always been this broad range. And I think what you're witnessing and is becoming apparent is that the practitioners, the individual content creators are aging. And we have a natural life arc, and you're seeing that being manifested in our talks.
Yeah.
And in many ways, the 21 Convention and the Manosphere is going through the same thing.
Yeah.
It's paralleling each other, that the content creators over 10 years have aged and developed, and you're still seeing them content. They just haven't hung up and gone away. And so you're seeing an evolution, a natural evolution towards this. And I'm really interested in seeing that take place, not only towards fatherhood, what I talk about specifically, the thresholds between being an adult, from being in a couple to then family. It's the thresholds between those realms that become really challenging. And if you're not prepared to go through those thresholds appropriately, you won't get to the other side whole and healthy, and you'll have failed relationships. And so you'll start to see that. And what I want to really kind of see eventually, it's not going to be far off, Ivan Throne talks about this, is that when you start talking beyond your length, your lifespan, is that you're looking, projecting down. And he has family books where they've written and documented things that have gone into these family volumes that get passed down through the generations. So you can hear their voice, you can hear the love and the trials and tribulations and the advice they've given. And he has access to it. That's generational speaking. I think you're going to start to see that embedded more and more in the 21 Convention, whether we're talking about personal finance to make sure that you are able to go into a retirement home and your child's not having to live with the duress of putting daddy in a hospice or whatever the hell it is, and that you have that. But we're also talking about then legacy building financially, through multi-generation. How do I prepare the family financially so that my great-grandchildren have something from me that carries them forward, and what will that do to my family tree and their lives, and so I think that becomes a really fascinating process.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did kind of cover the whole spectrum from infancy right up until the end when the child is taking care of you.
Yeah, isn't that
That was
fascinating?
fascinating.
And that was kind of the dialogue that I was talking about when you're engaging a child, when you're picking up and holding them.
Yeah.
You need to sit down and say, hey, what's the matter? We've got this. Why are you crying?
Yeah.
Daddy's got you. And part of it is that you need to talk these things through, not only to soothe the baby, but also yourself. Because there's going to be this visceral reaction of dealing with a duress child. And so I kind of did it naturally of talking about, kind of goofing about, oh, you pooped yourself. I remember when I pooped myself, and I'll tell you the truth, it won't be long and Daddy will be pooping himself, and that we know that's going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I will want to make sure that you are there to take care of me the way I took care of you.
Yeah.
And by the way, that's a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't expect a child of yours to do that or be there for you if you weren't there for them. And I think it's not only what we say, actions, not verbs, or action, non-verb, or I forget the FOE term for it. But you want to make sure that your behaviors are acting, following what you're saying. And we can do that immediately when we have these sort of things at the very beginning. And I talked about the first time when my daughter came to me when she was crying and she had a total diaper. And it wasn't that she came to me and wanted me. That was important. The issue was my partner was right next to me. Mother was there, and she chose Dad.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a competition with me and her, and Mom took it that way. The issue was I knew that she was behaving, acting. When she has needs, she will come to me.
Yeah.
And that my behaviors to that point have guided that experience to the point that she is. I now know I don't have that problem when she's a teenager,
Right.
that she will naturally come to Dad. Now, Dad's going to have to continue to be there and do that and demonstrate it, but I have full faith that when my child's in duress, when she's older and she has needs or need to communicate things, that pattern of behavior is already established, and that was critical. Now, I had to soothe Mom later on because Mom's crying because she came to Dad rather than Mom.
Yeah.
But I also had to tell her too. It's like, babe, nobody changes a diaper better than Daddy.
Yeah.
I'm your diaper daddy.
Yeah.
And you own that. And I don't feel that's masculine. Some men it will be, but I really don't give a shit. It's a honey badger of a diaper changing.
Yeah.
Daddy don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Daddy's taking care of business. Nobody's going to take care of my child better than me. And I'm
Right.
definitely not outsourcing that shit.
Right.
You want that shit done, get Daddy to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew a guy that once said that he and his wife came to an agreement on something early in their marriage, that he was gonna she would change diapers and he would change the tires. And I thought, okay, I get that.
Yeah,
That whole division of labor
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
But I also feel they might have cheated each other out of some great experiences because of that.
Yeah, they did.
They
absolutely
forfeited, some things.
Yeah.
Because I think it's necessary that everyone can multitask in a family.
Well, and you also don't have a direct appreciation for the other tasking.
Yeah.
And the other is that the father alienated themselves from the child.
Right.
And by the way, the father became superfluous in the family household.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's not good.
I remember a wife that went into the hospital for a hysterectomy, and everybody was afraid for the husband that he would starve because he never cooked a meal.
Right.
Like, my God, she was in the hospital for a week.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? He can't boil water. And that was like
right.
Yeah. So I like the idea that you're equipped, and I think you're equipping men, and you kind of established yourself as like the go-to guy. That was very bold. You know that, right? As these young men, find a mate and have children and so forth, you're going to be the guy.
Well, and to be honest, I kind of have a history for that. I started my first talk at the 21 convention was primarily a pickup convention.
Yeah.
And my first speech was a contrarian guide in relationships, and it was advocating relationships and the values of relationships.
Yeah.
So I've launched those ships before, and burned the boats on the shore, and traveled inward. So this is a next appropriate evolution of that, nearly 10 years later. But yeah, I think that's I think it probably will be more profound than I probably realized, because there's not a lot of guys talking about it. I know The documentary film crew that was filming it were just smoked by the fact that I said the things that I said, that how emphatically I believe the things, and then physically displayed it. They could not believe it. They wanted to see the kid, pull the stuff out, talk about it. What's this? How's this? Why do you do all that sort of stuff? And it's terribly fascinating. And it's terribly guy. It's terribly masculine. This is not an effeminate bag. This is something where you go, this is business. And we talk about tier one, special operations, but you don't want what we call a REMP, rear echelon motherfucker, to change your diaper. You want a forward edge. This is a guy who's going to take care of business. And clearly, tier one means something, and we can aspire to it. Not that you have to role play or cosplay to it. You can do it with confidence. And I showcased an individual that was exhibiting in that, that had the all four tactical virtues of masculinity. He had the strength, he had courage, he was showing mastery, and he had honor. And none of that was emasculating whatsoever. And this is a man carrying a bag, a baby on a chest carrier, very, very maternal-like, and that had a day bag. Some guys call them purses. I talked to a couple, and in fact, they're bags, and I don't have a problem with that. They're task-oriented, and you sit down and say it's clearly mission-oriented. And so, if it makes it more fun and enjoyable that I can kind of play and deal with this, and I have time to advance it, I'm no longer fretting about being a father. How do I do this, or being afraid, or trying. You now have a sense of purpose, okay, and you can change your mindset. And then I kind of gave him 3 other things what to do beyond changing a diaper. Spending 20 minutes with your child a day. Breaking that up maybe.
That was brilliant.
Doing that. And then the secondary thing is involving them in your life. They're not there. You're not there just to raise a child. You're there with not only apprentice to become an adult, you are there with your understudy. That child is there to replace you. This is your legacy that you're developing. You should be treating them like that. You need to show them these experiences, engage them in these experiences. And part of it early on is, take the baby and just go shopping. Even if you're not buying a damn thing, put the kid in the buggy and just go up and down the aisle, show them the big world, different colors, give them something to hold, put it away, put it back, engage them. They don't know any difference. It gets the baby away from mom for a while. Mom gets this empty, peaceful house. You're engaging the child. And it's a way of doing it without being baby time and being with, I hate to say it, you get to a point where you loathe children's TV, and at a certain point, so you say, how can I engage a child and not have it be childish?
Right.
And so I think there's a number of things we can do. And the last one was showcasing the value of storytelling. And I talked about the value of storytelling, and again brought up our book, My Red Hat, which is essentially doing just that. And it was an answer to the questions that we had a year ago that came from this convention. And it's something I've been thinking about for a while, is how do you teach men who are grossly underfathered how to father while they're in the act of fathering, and giving them the tool to relate. That's pro-masculine, pro-fatherhood, and pro-father.
This seems like volume 1. It seems like your talk today was volume 2. And
that was kind of the thing that people that weren't involved in the workshop previously.
Yeah.
The story characters have already been fleshed out, so we know who they are. The other 2 books have already been written, so we know that there's a series and other stories. Like this happens to be an anti-bullying book. We deal with a cultural value of My Red Hat. We did not know at the time Covington was going to happen. The Covington kids. That was a shock, but it dovetails with that. Yeah. So we have 2 more volumes kind of set, and we kind of know they're going. Illustration-wise, it's digital, so the characters can be. We can produce probably a book every 3 months if we wanted to. But again, we don't know how it's going to fare. We wanted to put something out. We're living in today's age, and collectively we sat down and said, we want to do something. And at the end of our lives, we want to sit down and say, we lived through this, we did something about it, and we tried. We just didn't sit on our hands and do nothing. And at least this is a first go-to trial balloon. Here it is. It's for sale on Amazon. You can get it. And let's see how this thing does. And if nothing comes of it, I tried. We put our foot forward. But I was terribly lucky to have a very talented team in-house, all done in that convention. With a author who was terribly gifted with his prose and scripting, and then an illustrator who was able to bring characters truly to life and bring things to fruition in a manner in which I don't think any of us would have visualized.
Right.
And so it vastly exceeds our expectations.
I don't know about you, but I see a dad boot camp starting.
Probably without a doubt. You know, I'll probably end up doing kind of a coursework, because I know that like the first talk where I talked about changing the diaper, everybody wanted to know what's in your dad bag. They wanted to know about that, and so that's why I incorporated it this time. So I'm, and of course I didn't bust out everything I had. I use the chem slate, just as an example of a go-to thing, and there's a lot more that you can do. And a lot of that didn't make the speech. So I'd love to kind of go through and, one, have a kit laid out, what's in your dad bag, and have that. Right. But then to do a series of videos where you showcase, hey, this is why it's set up, here's how to do this, mindset too. And I think there's this, I talk about, you need to be dad as fuck, I love that. Really, just get in there. And that may be the actual series name. And so I would love to see that kind of produced just prior to Patriarch coming up. So, and the rate at which we're doing these things now, it's like running hurdles. It's
my prediction is
2 months and then 2 months and then another convention. Yeah. So
my prediction is it will be ready by Patriarch. The timing is perfect for it.
It really is. It really is. So, and I want to say I'll be happy to champion it. The reality is, I think I would be terribly humbled too, because I'll be quite honest. I came very, very, very close, scarily close, to missing all of this. I was 48 when I had my child, my first, and that's extremely late even for men, for a number of issues. And everybody thinks they have time, and the reality, men have a wall too.
They do.
And we do. And it scares me every day that I think that the daughter I have, who I am in absolute rapture and love with, I am just so stupid for that little girl. That I may have missed that in an alternative universe I did. Right. And I just thank God that I had the partner I did, who answered my fears, that I was able to work through it, that I had the 21 convention to kind of work through a lot of my issues. You'll see my progression on some of these talks about that, and to move that forward. And I just feel obligated to share as much of that as I possibly can. And if I become the figurehead for that, I will be humbled by it. I will be deeply humbled by it. And it will be my return gift to this organization and the culture that has helped foster me to be a vastly superior man and father that I am today.
Being a father, it's a worthy goal, and we're happy to talk to Socrates about it.
George, thank you again.
Thanks. What was your experience so far with the 21 convention?
Oh, outstanding.
Professional, all across the board. Really good energy with a lot of people, and I just like it because it's a very positive direction.
This, George, this has been a first-class event.
It's fantastic. You guys run a really tight ship. I've been to a lot of conventions over the course of my business career, and I can tell when things are well run and when things aren't, and this is a very well-run operation. I was very impressed.
It's pretty incredible to see where Anthony's brought it, especially from last year, which was my first year here, and to see the upgrades he's made has been incredible.
I've got my notebook, and with every speaker, I've written down about 2 or 3 lines under each of the speakers of just the key prime stuff. That's good. That's good.
It's very surreal, man. I'm really enjoying it. I'm happy to live in such an era where such a thing like this is possible.
I have never seen a group of guys like this, a group of 200 men who are focused, squared away, they're working on their values. Just never met a bigger group of wonderful guys.
It's kind of neat because I've been to a fair amount of conventions in my day, but you never see one where the guys like here you can just see Ed Lattimore talking to Tanner about boxing.
Yeah.
You sit down and then you tell your boxing experiences. Everybody's kind of pinging off each other. It's nice.
It has been fantastic. And it's been 4 days of guys all on the same page, working in the same direction.
Fascinating meeting some of the people, hearing their stories. You got people traveling from other parts of the world to come here just to see some of the speakers. That's amazing.
The thing that's impressed me is everybody here is very serious.
Yeah.
They're taking it, close to their heart.
What a great convention.
Thanks, George.